Right now on Hoosier News Source, how a piece of Indiana legislature is cutting funding to research done here in Bloomington.
And a world-renowned artist comes back to share his legacy with IU. From Bloomington, Indiana, you're watching Hoosier News Source.
Hello and welcome to Hoosier News Source. I'm Carson Johnson.
And I'm Madisyn Renbarger. The world-renowned Kinsey Sex Institute will no longer receive funding from the university. In a vote of 53 to 34, the Indiana legislature voted last month prohibiting IU to direct any state funds to the institute. House Republicans argued that Alfred Kinsey, who's the founder of Research Center, exploited and abused children. This alleged information has yet to be proven. Kinsey is known for his significant research and contribution to sex behavioral studies. People took to social media expressing their concern for the Kinsey Institute's loss of funding. One social psychologist wrote, quote, "The Kinsey Institute, one of the most, if not the most, respected sex research institutes in the world," end quote. Other tweets included acknowledging recent research the institute conducted. When a final version of the state budget is passed in April, the prohibition of state funding toward the Kinsey Institute will get confirmed.
E-scooters are a popular mode of transportation on and off campus, but the city has yet to extend its contract with companies currently operating here. The Board of Public Works was set to consider license renewals in December, but that consideration is now set to be decided this spring. The B-Square Bulletin reports that no citations for parking have been issued despite city ordinance allowing such fines. Instead, temporary workers are paid using the funds from the license contracts. The city makes $10,000 per year plus 15 cents per ride.
Indiana University welcomed back one of their most talented alums, John Mellencamp. Last Friday, a symposium in his honor lasted from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Mellencamp gave insight into his career as well as some advice. IU President Pamela Whitten also made an appearance where she made several announcements. The Eskenazi Museum will be receiving Mellencamp's artwork. IU will receive a new statue of John Mellencamp, and Mellencamp has decided to make Indiana University the official home of all artifacts related to his musical career.
When we return from spring break, Bloomington Transit riders can find new Sunday routes starting on March 26th. The local bus service Route 6 and 9 run on Sundays, but now Route 3 East and West and Route 2 West and South will be available for passengers. Each route will run once an hour, and all Sunday rides remain fare-free until April 30th.
The Indiana University Chief Health Officer announced that his office would send out a second survey about current mental health services. Dr. Aaron E. Carroll said last semester's survey led to more telehealth appointments and expanded types of mental health services. His office will send out the next survey on the week of March 20th. Now for the latest on this week's weather going into spring break. Alyssa Heilmann is here to tell us exactly what to expect. Hopefully good news. Alyssa?
Thanks, Madisyn. Spring break is finally upon us, and for many, that means traveling home or to a warm destination. Looking ahead to next week, we see that most of the U.S. is expected to deviate from their average temperatures for this time of year. Warmer than average temperatures are expected in the southwestern region of the country. All of the blue areas will experience below average temperatures, which is true for much of the United States. It looks like it might be a chillier spring break than most of us would prefer. As for today's weather, we're continuing to cool off compared to the unusually warm day that we experienced on Monday. Earlier in the day, we will see heavy clouds and temperatures in the low 40s. Later, a few clouds will clear up and we'll get some peaks of sunshine. We reach our daily high of 48 degrees around 4 p.m. and we will continue to cool off as we go into the evening. Looking out into the rest of the week, we are continuing to see daily highs in the upper 40s with spotted showers that are starting late in Thursday and continuing throughout the weekend. For those sticking around Bloomington areas for a break, temperatures will stay in the mid-upper 40s and bring along some sunshine after that rain eventually is going to move out. Stay safe and enjoy your spring break. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Alyssa. Coming up on Hoosier News Source, a museum across the world brings its history right here to IU.
And we'll tell you why a student running for city council is under investigation. Stay with us. We're back now with the scary moments on board a United Airlines flight from Los Angeles to Boston on Sunday. 33-year-old Francisco Torres faces federal charges after authorities say he attempted to open an emergency door. After flight crew approached Torres, he began shouting threats to passengers and crew. Torres then got out of his seat and allegedly lunged at a flight attendant with a metal spoon. The pilots were able to quickly land in Boston, and Torres was taken into custody. Another mid-air scare over the weekend, this time on board a Southwest Airlines flight from Havana, Cuba to Florida. The plane was forced to make an emergency landing after bird strikes caused the plane's engine to catch fire shortly after takeoff. Seconds after the incident, smoke started to fill the cabin, leaving passengers with oxygen masks. The plane was able to safely land back in Havana minutes later.
Turning to international headlines, Chloe Ferguson joins us in studio with the latest. Chloe?
Thanks, guys. Starting with a tragic update on the 4 Americans kidnapped on Friday in Mexico. 2 were found dead and the other 2 were found alive. The Americans drove a minivan with North Carolina license plates when the unidentified kidnappers opened gunfire at their car. They then crashed their van and were forced into a pickup truck. One of the victims had an appointment for a medical procedure in Matamoros. The Russian-Ukrainian war continues as the city of Bakhmut, Ukraine is now under attack. Russian forces have made progress surrounding the small East Ukrainian city, leaving thousands dead on both sides and little hope for the citizens. Ukraine continues to hold onto their city, even though the situation is increasingly severe. As Russia continues to grow closer to the city center, Ukrainian citizens are only becoming more trapped and greatly outnumbered. New video out of France shows police clashing with protesters across the country. Hundreds of thousands of people participated in strikes against a proposed raise to France's retirement age. The plan would raise the age to 64. The majority of voters have voiced their concern, and protesters have taken to the streets, shutting down schools and disrupting public transportation. Both the French government and workers' unions have voiced their stand on the ground.
Thanks, Chloe. The Hamilton Luger School of Global and International Studies presented an exhibition on Ukrainian-Russian relations. The exhibition, titled "The Uncondemned Genocide of Ukrainians Repeats," opened on February 24th in partnership with the Holodomor Museum. The Holodomor is a museum in Ukraine dedicated to victims of a man-made famine in the 1930s that killed millions of Ukrainians. The exhibit itself covers crimes like these against the Ukrainian people and talks about the ongoing conflicts happening there today. The exhibit is still on display in the Global and International Studies building.
Turning towards local politics, IU student and city council candidate David Wolf Bender is under investigation by the Monroe County Election Board. The board concluded at its latest meeting that there is reason to believe that Bender, who is running for city council in Bloomington's 6th district, doesn't actually live there. Bender denied these rumors, telling the IDS that he signed a lease for 304 East 16th Street, which is in District 6, but the owner of that property claims there is no record of Bender living there or having plans to do so in the future. The election board has agreed to investigate the matter further, but no date has been set for hearings. If found guilty of violating election laws, Bender could face a level 6 felony.
A new building on campus just opened its doors. The Ferguson International Center officially started welcoming people in February. The building houses the Office of International Studies and Office of Overseas Study and will provide space for IU's international programs like study abroad experiences. A $5 million donation from alumni Stephen and Connie Ferguson helped in part to fund the building. Students can schedule appointments online or visit the center in person if they're interested in overseas travel.
The U.S. Department of Education awarded $3.4 million to the IU School of Education and Richland Bean Blossom Community School Corporation. The grant will focus on recruiting mental health workers for schools and increasing the amount of school-based mental health providers. It will also focus on retaining school counselors through promotional opportunities. The 5-year grant will run until December 31st, 2027, and is the second collaboration between the IU School of Education faculty and RBB community schools.
Over the weekend, IU basketball scored a close win over the Wolverines, and the Hoosiers honored their senior players. Evan Kamikow is here to tell us more on that and the latest on all IU athletics. Evan?
Thanks, Carson. It's officially March, which means tournament time for Indiana men's and women's basketball. But we start on the men's side. Mike Woodson's squad hosted Juwan Howard and the Michigan Wolverines on Sunday. In a back-and-forth effort all afternoon, which resulted in overtime, Indiana got the job done on Senior Day, securing the infamous double bye in the Big Ten tournament. They will face the winner of Nebraska, Minnesota, and Maryland in the semifinals at 9 p.m. Over to the women's side, as Terry Morin's squad, well, they didn't have the tournament they hoped for. After narrowly beating number 9 seed Michigan State, the Hoosiers came out guns blazing against the Ohio State Buckeyes. After being up as many as 23 points in the third quarter, Taylor Thierry got the Buckeyes going, and they outscored Indiana 53-29 in the second half to secure the win. With the loss, Terry Morin's squad is still projected to be a #1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. With Selection Sunday slated for next Sunday night, both the men's and women's tournament, only time will tell where both Hoosier squads land for the big dance. That's all for sports. Back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Evan, and thank you for watching this week's episode of Hoosier News Source.
For more information on this week's stories, check out iustv.com.
And be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at IUSTV News.
I'm Madisyn Renbarger.
And I'm Carson Johnson. From Bloomington, Indiana, we'll see you next time.